Matteo Salvi broke the yellow lunchbox, and within 1 minute a 6-year-old girl would make the most feared mafia boss in South Brooklyn say sorry before he could walk away. It happened at 12:07 on a rainy Tuesday, between the tomato soup station and the tray return, in front of 23 first graders, for lunch volunteers, one furious cafeteria manager, and 2 black-suited men who looked as if they had been carved from the same cold stone. Matteo turned away from the counter, just as a little girl set her lunchbox on the end of the booth to open her sandwich. His black leather glove came down on the table without looking. The lunchbox slid under his palm, trapped between the booth rail and the heavy silver signet ring on his finger. Crack. The sound was small. The silence after it was not. The little girl stared at the lunchbox. It was bright yellow, shaped like a rectangle with rounded corners, with 3 faded daisy stickers on the lid and a blue plastic latch now hanging crooked from one side. A thin white crack ran from the handle to the corner like lightning. Then she picked it up with both hands, lifted it to Matteo Salvi's chest, pointed one solemn finger at the most feared mafia boss in South Brooklyn, and said, "You broke it. You say sorry before you walk away." No one moved. The soup line stopped breathing. Nora Finch, who had been pouring milk into paper cups with one hand and checking allergy stickers with the other, felt every adult in the room look at her. Lily Bell was 6 years old. She wore a green raincoat, yellow boots, and the expression of a tiny judge who had never been told that powerful men were allowed to ignore small damage. Her brown curls were damp from the walk over from St. Anselm's. Both feet were planted flat on the diner floor. She was safe, upright, furious, and very certain. Matteo Salvi looked down at her. He did not look like a man who apologized. He wore a black 3-piece suit beneath a long black overcoat still shining with rain. His gloves were black leather, buttoned neatly at the wrist. His hair was dark, combed back, and so controlled it made the rest of the room seem untidy by comparison. Behind him stood Silas and Bruno, his 2 bodyguards, both in black suits, both with hands relaxed at their sides in the way that made Nora trust them less, not more. Through the steamed diner windows, a black SUV waited at the curb. Matteo's gaze moved from Lily to the lunchbox, then to the crack his hand had made. "I will replace it," he said. His voice was low enough that the children in the back stopped whispering. Lily's finger did not lower. "That is buying. Sorry is talking." One of the first graders at table 3 whispered, "Lily is doing the principal voice." Nora put the milk pitcher down. Silas took 1 step forward. Nora moved faster. She stepped between the bodyguard and Lily, holding nothing more dangerous than a plastic tray and a stack of napkins, her blue diner apron dusted with flour from the morning biscuit batch. "No one steps over a child in my lunch line," she said. Silas looked at her as if he was trying to decide whether she understood what room she was in. Nora looked back as if she had handled scarier things than him before 9 in the morning. She had. They had names like food inspector, late milk delivery, peanut allergy form missing page 2, and 30 children chanting for chocolate pudding during a fire drill. "Miss Finch," Lily said without looking away from Matteo. He did not say it. "I noticed." Matteo's eyes shifted to Nora. Cold hit her first. Not fear exactly. More like walking into a freezer and realizing the door had shut behind you. "This is your diner?" he asked. "This is my lunch line," Nora said. "The diner is my aunt's. The children are mine until 1 o'clock. You broke Lily's lunchbox during my shift. It was an accident." Then it should be an easy apology. A tiny sound came from the teacher's table. Mrs. Pruitt, who had taught first grade for 32 years and feared no living creature under 4 feet tall, covered her mouth with a napkin. Matteo did not smile. That made Nora's stomach tighten. Men like him did not need to raise their voices. They carried quiet like a locked door. "I said I would replace it," he said. Lily hugged the cracked lunchbox to her raincoat. "My mom put the noodles in this one because the red one smells like pickles. You broke this one." Nora crouched beside Lily, not in front of her. Children who spoke the truth did not need adults blocking the view. "Do you want me to help?" Nora asked. Lily nodded once. "He has to say sorry. That is a reasonable lunch rule." Matteo's jaw tightened. Bruno, the second bodyguard, leaned closer to him. "Boss." Matteo lifted 2 fingers. Bruno stopped. Nora saw it then. The bodyguards did not frighten the room as much as the fact that they obeyed the smallest movement from Matteo's hand. That was why Lily's finger mattered. It was smaller. It should not have worked. It was working. "What is this place?" Matteo asked. "Marigold Diner," Nora said. "It smells like a school cafeteria." "Thank you. We have range." She straightened. St. Anselm's cafeteria roof caved during the April storm. Until the repairs finish, their first and second graders eat lunch here 3 days a week. We use booth seating for classes, counter space for trays, and that tape line on the floor means adults wait behind it unless they have a lunch badge. Matteo looked down. A strip of yellow tape crossed the floor at his shoes. He was standing 6 inches past it. Lily looked too. "And you crossed the line." Someone coughed. It sounded like a laugh that wanted to live. Nora did not look at the children. If she did, she might start laughing too, and laughing at a man like Matteo Salvi could turn a room into a problem. "Move back behind the tape," she said. Silas's head turned toward her with visible disbelief. Matteo did not move. For one long second, the room balanced on the thin white crack in the lunchbox. Then Matteo Salvi took one step back. The children gasped as if a magic trick had happened. Nora's pulse kicked hard behind her ribs. "Good," Lily said. Matteo looked at the child. "You have many rules." "Lunch has to have rules," Lily said. "Or people take all the grapes." "A serious offense," Nora murmured. Matteo's eyes flicked to her. There was something there now that had not been there before. Not softness. Something sharper. Interest, maybe. The kind that made Nora wish she had slept more than 4 hours. The bell over the diner door rang. Colin Wexler entered with a leather folder under one arm and a smile that made Nora want to count the forks. He wore a gray suit, a red tie, and the bright face of a man who believed paperwork could make cruelty polite. Behind him came a woman from the school board procurement office and a man from City Plate Catering, both holding umbrellas and trying not to stare at the bodyguards. "Mr. Salvi," Wexler said, already extending his hand. "I see you found the location." Nora's mouth went dry. So that was why Matteo was here. Not for lunch. For the building. Wexler saw Lily, the cracked lunchbox, the silent children, and Nora standing in the middle of the line. His smile tightened. "Miss Finch," he said. "I was hoping this discussion could happen after the children returned to school. Then you should have scheduled it after 1. This is a property matter. This is a lunch period." Matteo watched them both without expression. Wexler stepped around the tape line as if it was meant for smaller people. Nora pointed at the floor. "Behind the yellow line." He blinked. "Excuse me. Adults without lunch badges wait behind the yellow line while children are eating. Miss Finch, with respect, I am here with Mr. Salvi. Then he can explain the line to you. He just learned it." Mrs. Pruitt made another napkin sound. Wexler's color rose. Matteo turned his head slightly toward him. "The line matters." Wexler stopped. The procurement woman stopped faster. The city plate man nearly stepped on her shoe. Lily held the cracked lunchbox higher. "He still did not say sorry." "Lily," Nora said gently, "we are not forgetting." "Good." Matteo's gaze settled on the lunchbox again. The crack had widened near the latch. Inside, Nora could see a small fork, a folded napkin, a thermos of noodles, and a sticker on the inside lid that read Lily Bell in purple marker. It was not an expensive thing. That was the point. Expensive things were easy for rich men to replace. Cheap things were the ones people used every day until the hinges got weak, until the names were written over twice, until a mother knew which box did not smell like pickles. Cheap things carried memory, because nobody could afford to keep many. Matteo reached into his coat. Silas shifted to block the children from seeing whatever came next. Nora's hand closed around the nearest object on the counter. It was a ladle. Not ideal. Still metal. Matteo pulled out a money clip. Nora lowered the ladle half an inch. He removed $500 bills and held them toward Lily. "By 10, he said. Lily looked at the money, then at Nora. Nora said nothing. This was Lily's lesson if she wanted it. The little girl pushed the money back with 2 fingers. "I only need 1, she said. "And you still did not say sorry." Matteo's gloved hand went still in the air. For the first time, Nora saw a crack that did not belong to the lunchbox. It passed through Matteo's control so quickly that no one else might have noticed. The smallest tightening at the throat. A blink held half a second too long. His thumb pressing once against the edge of the money clip. He could order men out of a room. He could pay for damage. He could stop Wexler with 2 words. He could not say one small word to a child. Nora did not understand it yet. But she believed it. Mr. Salvi, Wexler said carefully, perhaps we should step outside and allow Miss Finch to manage her temporary arrangement. Temporary? Lily asked. Nora did not want that word landing in the room. Too late. The children heard it. So did the volunteers. Wexler smiled the smile adults used when they wanted a child to stop noticing. The diner has been very generous, sweetheart, but this building is part of a redevelopment corridor. It is a lunchroom, Lily said. For now. Nora felt the whole room turn colder than the rain. Matteo looked at Wexler. You told me the space was underused after breakfast. It is, Wexler said quickly. This school lunch situation is informal. No long-term contract. No binding tenant protections. City Plate can absorb the children within the week. City Plate sent turkey sandwiches with peanut butter cookies last month, Nora said. The procurement woman looked at her shoes. Wexler's smile sharpened. 1 labeling oversight. 3 EpiPens and a 6-year-old on a bus to urgent care, Nora said. That is not an oversight. That is a failure with packaging. The first graders went very quiet. Nora regretted the phrase as soon as she said it. Children deserved facts without fear. She turned enough to soften her voice. Everyone here is safe. That was another school, and we fixed our allergy table because we learned from it. Lily hugged the lunchbox tighter. Miss Nora checks stickers twice. I check them 3 times if Mason's grandmother packs cookies, Nora said. Mason at table 2 raised both hands. She makes surprise cookies. She makes sneaky cookies. The children relaxed by one breath. Matteo did not. His eyes had gone to the colored chart taped behind the counter. Allergies, pick-up adults, lunch balances, medicine notes. Which child needed milk opened? Which child needed the orange spoon because metal against teeth made him gag? You run this? He asked Nora. Yes. The school pays you? The school reimburses ingredients. Volunteers cover service. The diner covers what the reimbursement does not. That is not a business model. No. It is lunch. Wexler gave a short laugh. And that is exactly why the space requires professional management. Nora turned on him. She was tired. Her shoes were wet. Her apron had tomato soup on the hem. Her aunt was in Queens getting a heart monitor fitted. The rent was late. The freezer compressor sounded like a dying lawnmower, and a mafia boss had just broken a child's lunchbox in front of a man trying to take the building. She had no patience left for polite theft. Professional management, she said, is knowing Oliver gets the blue tray because green makes him think of the flu. It is knowing Lily's mother works the early shift and packs noodles because cereal makes Lily sleepy before reading. It is knowing City Plate counts ketchup as a vegetable and charges for milk twice when nobody is looking. It is knowing that if a child says her lunchbox matters, you do not call it clutter. The diner was silent. Wexler's face hardened. You are emotional. Yes, Nora said. Children eating tends to bring that out. Matteo put the money back in his coat. Lily immediately said, still not sorry. Matteo looked down at her. No, he said. Not yet. Nora heard the words behind the words. Not refusal. Not obedience. Something like a man standing at the edge of a bridge he did not know how to cross. The kitchen timer screamed. Every child jumped. Nora swore under her breath, turned, and grabbed the tray of grilled cheese from the past before the edges burned. The moment she moved, Wexler stepped forward. We should review the termination notice. Matteo did not look at him. Wait. Wexler froze. Mr. Salvi? Children are eating. This will only take a moment. Then it can take the moment after lunch. The words were not warm. They were not kind. They were in order. Wexler stepped back behind the yellow line. Nora slid grilled cheese onto plates. Her hands knew the work even while her mind tried to understand what had just shifted. Matteo Salvi had not apologized. But he had waited. In the world he came from, Nora suspected waiting was not a small thing. Lily did not care. She set the cracked lunchbox on the counter near Nora's elbow. Can you fix it? Nora looked at the latch. I can try after lunch. The hinge pin is bent. We have tape, a tiny screwdriver, and the stubbornness of 4 generations of diner women. Can he fix it? Nora looked at Matteo. So did every child in the diner. Matteo's face closed again. I do not repair lunchboxes, he said. Lily folded her arms. You broke lunchboxes. Nora bit the inside of her cheek. That is hard to argue with, she said. Bruno looked at the ceiling like a man seeking spiritual help. Matteo removed his gloves very slowly. The room noticed. His hands were large, elegant, and scarred in ways no expensive suit could hide. A burn mark crossed the base of his thumb. One knuckle had been broken badly once and healed larger than the others. The signet ring looked heavier without the glove. He set the gloves on the counter beside the cracked yellow lunchbox. After lunch, he said. Lily studied him. And sorry. Matteo's mouth barely moved. After lunch. That is not a yes. It is not a no. Lily considered this with the seriousness of a contract lawyer. Miss Nora, we can hold him to that. With tape. With witnesses. The first graders sat taller. Matteo looked around the diner as if he had only now realized how many witnesses 6-year-olds could become. Nora served lunch. She served it because children could not eat drama, even when drama wore a black overcoat and made councilmen sweat. She served tomato soup, grilled cheese, apple slices, milk, and extra crackers to table 4 because they had missed morning snack during a bus delay. She wiped the counter, checked stickers, opened milk cartons, replaced a fork, stopped Mason from trading cookies with a child who could not have sesame, and told Wexler twice that if he crossed the yellow line she would hand him a hairnet and put him on tray duty. Matteo stood behind the line. At first, he stood like a threat. Then, slowly, because the room did not adjust itself around him the way other rooms must have, he became something stranger. An adult waiting his turn. Children looked at him between bites. He looked back once. Mason lifted his grilled cheese in salute. Matteo did not know what to do with that. Nora did. If a child shows you food, you say nice sandwich. Matteo turned his head toward her. She kept filling cups. Mason waited. Matteo looked back at the sandwich. Nice sandwich, he said. Mason beamed as if knighted. Silas closed his eyes. Lily, still guarding her cracked lunchbox from table 1, said, He can learn. For the next 20 minutes, Matteo Salvi learned the public school lunch period. He learned that first graders spilled milk in slow motion while watching it happen. He learned that someone named Ava would only eat crust if Nora called it toast edges. He learned that a child could ask why he dressed like a funeral and then continue eating soup as if the answer did not matter. He learned that Nora Finch could hold a room together with a pencil behind her ear, a roll of blue painter's tape on her wrist, and a voice that never rose until it had to. He also learned that Wexler hated being ignored. At 12:39, Wexler tried again. Mr. Salvi, if I could just show you the preliminary floor plans. Nora carried a tub of dirty trays past him. No business until trays are stacked. Miss Finch, you do not dictate commercial proceedings. No, but I dictate tray proceedings. Move. Wexler did not move. Matteo did. He stepped aside first, creating a path between Nora and the dish window. It should not have mattered. It did. Nora passed him close enough to smell rain, leather, and something colder beneath, like winter air caught in wool. Thank you, she said. Matteo's eyes dropped to the tub in her hands. It is heavy. Observant. Silas. Silas reached for the tub. Nora shifted it away. No. Silas stopped. Matteo looked at her. No, he repeated. You do not hand a lunchroom job to a man who scares the lunchroom. He is trying to help. Then he can ask. Silas looked as if the word ask had insulted generations of training. Lily called from table 1, helpers ask. Nora pointed at Lily with the tub. Exactly. Matteo looked at Silas. Silas looked pained. Miss Finch, Silas said, voice rough, may I carry the trays? Nora smiled despite herself. No, thank you. But you can hold the kitchen door open with your foot and not touch the allergy shelf. Silas did it. The children watched a black-suited bodyguard hold open a swinging kitchen door like a school volunteer. Mason whispered, Is he lunch police? Today he is door help, Nora said. Lily patted the cracked lunchbox. The boss still has repair. I am aware, Matteo said. He sounded almost tired. That was the first human thing in his voice. After the trays were stacked and the children lined up for the walk back to St. Anselm's, Lily refused to leave. I have business, she told Mrs. Pruitt. Mrs. Pruitt glanced at Nora. Nora looked at the rain, the bodyguards, Wexler's folder, and Matteo Salvi standing behind a yellow tape line with his gloves beside a broken lunchbox. 10 minutes, she said. Mrs. Pruitt, can you take the class back with Mr. Alvarez and leave Lily with me until her mother arrives? Already texted her, Mrs. Pruitt said. She works 2 blocks over. She said Lily may stay if you are with her. Lily lifted her chin at Matteo, as if this had all proceeded according to plan. The diner emptied by degrees. Small chairs scraped. Raincoats rustled. Children waved at Silas like he was a crossing guard. He did not wave back until Nora looked at him. Then he lifted one hand. 20 children gasped with joy. When the last child left, the diner changed shape. It was still bright, still smelling of soup and grilled cheese, but the air had room in it now. Rain tapped the windows. The clock over the pie case clicked loudly. Wexler opened his folder with renewed confidence. Now, he said, we can return to the matter of the lease. Lily dragged a chair to the counter. The sound was enormous. She climbed up, set the cracked yellow lunchbox in front of Matteo, and sat with both hands folded. Now he fixes it. Wexler stared. This is absurd. Nora reached beneath the counter and took out the small repair tin her aunt kept for everything from loose drawer pulls to toy trucks abandoned in booth 6. She set it beside the lunchbox. Inside were a tiny screwdriver, clear tape, yellow duct tape, rubber bands, safety pins, a bent butter knife, a glue tube, and 3 buttons that did not belong to anything anymore. Matteo looked at the tin as if Nora had set a bomb on the counter. I can buy a new one, he said again. Lily shook her head. This one has my name. Names can be written again. Not by my mom before breakfast. The words landed softly. Matteo's face changed. Not much. Enough. Nora saw it because she was watching him instead of the lunchbox. His throat tightened again. His fingers curled once, then opened against the counter. The man who could make Wexler stop talking by breathing had gone still because a 6-year-old had mentioned a mother writing a name before breakfast. Nora took the tiny screwdriver and held it out to him handle first. He did not take it. I do not know how, he said. For Matteo Salvi, the sentence sounded more dangerous than any threat. Lily leaned forward. Miss Nora knows how. Miss Nora did not break it. You broke it. Yes. The yes was quiet. Wexler shifted. Mr. Salvi, surely your time is worth more than repairing a child's lunchbox. Nora turned to him. Mr. Wexler, that may be the clearest thing you have said today. Matteo's eyes did not leave the screwdriver. I know how to buy silence, he said. I know how to settle accounts. I do not know how to repair a lunchbox. Nora held the tool steady. Then learn the rule. He looked at her. The diner narrowed to the space between them. What rule? When you break a child's thing, you do not start with money. You start by getting low enough to see what broke. Wexler made an impatient sound. Matteo ignored him. Slowly, with the kind of control Nora associated with men disarming traps, Matteo Salvi stepped around the counter stool, lowered himself into a crouch beside Lily's chair, and brought his eyes level with the cracked yellow lunchbox. Not kneeling. Not submitting. Lowering himself because the object was small and the person holding him accountable was smaller. That difference mattered. Lily watched him very carefully. Nora did too. Matteo accepted the screwdriver. His hand was too large for it. The tool looked ridiculous between his scarred fingers. He studied the bent latch, the cracked handle. The hinge pin almost slipped loose. What first? He asked. Lily looked at Nora. Nora nodded toward the lunchbox. It is your rule. Lily touched the crack. First you say what you did. Matteo's shoulders went rigid. The room felt the old cold return. Matteo looked at the lunchbox. Not at Lily. Not at Nora. At the crack. I broke your lunchbox, he said. Lily waited. The rain tapped harder against the glass. And the word came from Nora before she could stop it. Matteo's eyes lifted. There was anger in them. Not at her. That was worse. It was old anger, turned inward and sharpened until it had become law. In my house, he said, each word measured. Apologies were confessions. Confessions were used. Lily frowned. That is not lunch. Matteo stared at her. For 1 second, Nora thought he might laugh. He did not. But something in his face loosened around the child's certainty. No, he said. It is not lunch. Nora leaned one hip against the counter. She wanted to ask about his house. She did not. The rule in her diner was simple. People offered stories when ready. Nobody dug with a fork. Lily pointed at the cracked latch. Now you say sorry. Matteo's fingers tightened around the screwdriver until Nora worried it might snap. Then he lowered his head a fraction, not in surrender, but to put his voice where Lily could hear it without fear. I am sorry I broke your lunchbox, he said. The diner went silent in a different way. Not frozen. Listening. Lily studied him for 3 full seconds. Okay, she said. Now you fix. Matteo exhaled. It was barely sound. Nora heard it anyway. Wexler did not understand what had happened. Of course he did not. He saw only a rich man wasting time with a child's object. Nora saw a dangerous man crouched on her diner floor, holding a tiny screwdriver, having just crossed a line more frightening to him than the yellow tape. That was the turn no one named aloud. Not soft. Not pretty. Real. Nora opened the glue tube. We clean the edge first. She handed Matteo a rag from the Sani bucket. It was white once. Now it had lived a diner's honest life. He looked at it. It is clean, Nora said. Just ugly. Many useful things are. Careful. That sounded almost humble. I apologize. Lily's eyes widened. Again. Matteo froze. Nora laughed. She could not help it. The sound burst out of her, warm and startled. Matteo looked up at her as if the laugh had touched him somewhere under the armor. That one does not count, Nora said. But it shows promise. Lily nodded. He can practice. Matteo returned to the lunchbox. Under Lily's instruction and Nora's practical corrections, he cleaned the cracked edge, held the hinge while Nora pushed the pin back in with the butter knife, applied a thin strip of yellow tape inside the lid, and used 2 small rubber bands to keep the latch aligned while the glue set. He moved slowly. Every action had to be made smaller than his habits. Men like him were trained for force. Lunchboxes required pressure. Not too much. Just enough. You are squeezing, Lily said. Matteo loosened his grip. You are frowning at it, Nora said. Does that affect the repair? It affects morale. His mouth moved by 0.5 millimeter. It might have been the beginning of a smile. It might have been indigestion. Nora chose smile. Wexler shut his folder. This is theater, he snapped. Mr. Salvi, I have investors waiting on the call. The demolition schedule depends on the school lunch transition. The screwdriver stopped. Nora's body went cold. Demolition, she asked. Wexler's mouth tightened. Matteo looked up. You said renovation. Adaptive redevelopment, Wexler said. You said the diner would remain operational during the first phase. Language evolves. Not in contracts, Nora said. Wexler gave her a pitying look. Miss Finch, your aunt is 3 months behind on rent. The school arrangement is informal. Your permits are temporary. You have no leverage here. Lily clutched the lunchbox. Matteo rose. He did not rise quickly. That made it worse. The man from the doorway was back now, black suit and quiet authority, but the yellow tape and the tiny screwdriver had altered the room. He was still dangerous. More dangerous, maybe, because now he had looked closely at what small damage meant. Show me the contract, he said. Wexler hesitated. Now, Matteo said. Wexler handed over the folder. Matteo opened it on the counter beside the lunchbox. Nora saw pages of legal print, floor plans, tenant notices, school transition memos, city plate invoices, and a demolition calendar with Marigold marked in red. Her stomach dropped. She had suspected pressure. She had not seen the date. This says Friday, she said. Preliminary, Wexler said. This Friday. Matteo's eyes moved through the pages, faster than Nora expected. My signature is not on this. Wexler's smile returned in its smallest, slipperiest form. Your office gave verbal approval. My office does not give verbal approval. Your cousin Enrico attended the planning dinner. Silas made a low sound. Matteo turned one page, then another. His face became unreadable. Enrico approved demolition of an occupied diner during school lunch operations. He approved review of a corridor opportunity. That was not what I asked. Wexler swallowed. Nora understood then that Wexler had miscalculated. He had thought the most dangerous thing in the room was Matteo's greed. He had not accounted for Lily's lunchbox. Cheap objects had a way of clarifying expensive lies. Lily whispered, "Is he taking lunch?" Nora put a hand lightly on the back of Lily's chair. "Not today." Matteo heard her. "Not ever without Miss Finch's consent." Wexler's face changed. "You cannot make that promise in front of a child." Matteo looked at him. "I can make it in front of a judge if you prefer." Bruno smiled. It was not friendly. Nora reached beneath the counter and pulled out her own binder. It was blue, dented, and held together with a rubber band. She placed it beside Wexler's leather folder. "If we are reading papers, read mine too." Wexler groaned. "Not the binder." Matteo's eyes moved to Nora. "He knows it. Everyone knows it. Nobody respects it until they need page numbers." She opened to the first tab. Rent receipts. Late yes. Missing no. Repair requests. Freezer compressor. Roof leak. Backdoor seal. Booth rail crack. Allergy compliance logs. School reimbursement invoices. City plate complaint records. Procurement emails. Photos of spoiled milk from their June delivery. My aunt's lease rider that says educational food service use counts as public benefit occupancy during school emergencies. Matteo looked at the page. Then at Wexler. "You told me the lease had no public benefit rider." Wexler's forehead shone. "It was not relevant to the redevelopment package. It is relevant to the children eating lunch." Nora almost missed the small miracle. He had said children. Not occupants. Not liabilities. Children. Lily was touching the repaired latch with one fingertip. "Can I put the sticker back?" she asked. "After the glue sets," Nora said automatically. Matteo looked down. "How long?" 10 minutes if everyone stops breathing on it like a courtroom." Silas stepped back from the counter. Bruno stepped back too. Wexler did not. Matteo's gaze moved to him. Wexler stepped back. Nora turned a page in the binder. City Plate charged the school for hot lunches on days they delivered shelf-stable sandwiches. They billed for milk on days we supplied it. They billed for disposable trays on days my aunt washed ours by hand because the school reimbursement ran short. "That is an accounting dispute," Wexler said. "It is children being charged twice for lunch they did not get." Matteo's hand rested beside the cracked yellow lunchbox. The ring on his finger flashed under the diner lights. "Silas," he said. "Yes." "Call Aldo. Freeze Enrico's access to Salvi corridor accounts. Pull every invoice from City Plate for the last 2 years. Bruno, get my counsel on the phone and tell him I want an injunction draft before the glue dries." Lily looked impressed. "Glue dries fast. Then counsel will work fast," Matteo said. Nora should not have liked that. She did anyway. Wexler tried to recover with volume. "This is a gross overreaction to a lunchbox." Matteo turned to him. "No," he said. "The lunchbox was the first honest document I saw today." Nora went still. The words moved through her more deeply than she wanted. For years, she had built honest documents out of things nobody respected. Allergy stickers, meal logs, handwritten names, a child's lunchbox with noodles inside. She knew exactly what it cost to make a small thing tell the truth in rooms where expensive paper lied. Matteo understood now. Or he had begun to. That was enough for the next 10 minutes. The bell over the diner door rang again. Lily's mother rushed in wearing a grocery store vest under a raincoat, hair escaping from a braid, face pale with worry. "Lily? Nora?" "I came as fast as I could." Lily held up the lunchbox. "A Mafia Boss broke it." Her mother stopped dead. Nora closed her eyes. "Lily," she said. "He said sorry," Lily added, as if this should comfort everyone. Her mother looked at Matteo, at the bodyguards, at Wexler, at the lunchbox, and then at Nora. "Should I be calling someone?" "Not unless you know a better lawyer than his," Nora said. Matteo inclined his head. Mrs. Bell. Miss, she corrected automatically. Miss Bell. I damaged your daughter's lunchbox. I am sorry. I am repairing it. I offered money first. She rejected it correctly. Lily nodded. Money is after sorry. Miss Bell's eyes filled. Not with fear. With exhaustion. Nora knew that look. The look of a mother who had expected the day to hurt in a new way and found, unexpectedly, that someone had put a hand in front of the harm. It was my mother's, Miss Bell said quietly. The lunchbox. She used it for sewing buttons. Lily uses it for noodles. Matteo's face changed again. Nora saw the apology land a second time deeper. Then replacement was an insufficient offer, he said. Miss Bell blinked. Yes, Lily said. I told him. You did, Matteo said. The glue set. Not perfectly. The crack still showed. The latch worked if pressed from the left side. The daisy stickers were wrinkled but intact. Nora found a small yellow star sticker in the repair tin and offered it to Lily. Lily looked at Matteo. You put it. He accepted the sticker as if it were evidence in a trial. His fingers were not built for tiny paper backing. He struggled for several seconds while everyone pretended not to watch. Nora finally took pity on him and loosened one corner. Do not tear it, Lily warned. I am under supervision, Matteo said. He placed the star beside the crack. Crooked. Lily considered it. Okay. The word seemed to release the room. Matteo handed the lunchbox back with both hands. Not because it was heavy. Because it mattered. Lily took it. Thank you for fixing what you broke. Matteo nodded once. Thank you for explaining the rule. Lily leaned toward her mother and whispered loudly, He is better now. We do not know that yet, Nora said. Matteo looked at her. No, he said. We do not. There was no flirtation in it. That came later, perhaps. For now, it was better. It was honesty. Wexler's phone buzzed. He glanced down and went pale. Matteo noticed. Problem? No. Silas looked at his own phone. Boss, Aldo says Enrico moved funds through a shell vendor tied to City Plate. Council is already drafting. He used the words very stupid twice. Bruno added, and creatively stupid once. Matteo closed Wexler's folder. Mr. Wexler, you will leave the diner. Wexler's mouth opened. Mr. Salvi, if Enrico made representations beyond the scope of authority, that is internal. You still benefit from the corridor project. I benefited from false information. You benefit from owning the block. Matteo's eyes moved to Lily's lunchbox. Today I learned ownership is not the same as permission. Nora felt that sentence settle over the counter. Wexler heard something else in it. Loss. You are making a mistake, he said. Matteo smiled then. It was the first real smile Nora had seen from him. It was terrifying. I have made several. Miss Bell made me apologize for one. You will answer for yours. Wexler left with less dignity than he had brought in. The City Plate man followed him. The procurement woman stayed. She took one look at Nora's binder and said, I would like copies of pages 17 through 26. Nora smiled. I already made them. Matteo looked at her. Of course you did. Some women carry lipstick, Nora said. I carry duplicate invoices. Practical. Attractive too, if a man has taste. Silas suddenly became fascinated by the rain. Matteo did not look away. I am developing some, he said. Nora's face warmed. Miss Bell cleared her throat with the delicate mercy of a woman rescuing another woman from eye contact. Lily, we should go. I have 10 minutes before my manager notices I took lunch late. Matteo reached into his coat again. Nora said, Careful. He paused. Then instead of money, he removed a black business card and placed it on the counter, not in Miss Bell's hand. If your manager gives you trouble for coming here, call that number. No threats. Employment Council. Miss Bell looked suspicious. It is not charity, Nora said before Matteo could speak. It is a tool. Tools are allowed. Matteo's eyes warmed by 1 degree. Miss Bell took the card. Lily held up the lunchbox. If he breaks your job, he has to fix that too. Ideally, he does not break it first, Nora said. Matteo said, I am trying to reduce the pattern. Lily nodded as if satisfied with his growth. After they left, the diner felt too quiet. Nora wiped the counter around the repair tin, put away the glue, washed the tiny screwdriver, and rinsed the ugly white rag. Matteo stood on the other side of the yellow line, still behind it. She noticed. So did he. You may cross now, she said. Am I permitted? Lunch is over. He stepped over the tape. The movement should not have made her pulse trip. It did. You handled Wexler well, Matteo said. He hates binders. That gave me the advantage. You knew he was lying before I did. I knew he was smiling too much. That is evidence. In food service, yes. Matteo looked at the blue binder, then at the lunchbox-shaped clean spot on the counter. You are not afraid of me. Nora considered lying. She did not. I am afraid of what men with power can do when nobody makes them slow down. That is not the same. No. It is more specific. He accepted the distinction. And now I have seen you apologize to a 6-year-old and fight a procurement fraud before the glue dried. That improves my standing? It complicates it. Good. You like complicated? No. His gaze held hers. But I have found simple things more dangerous today. Nora looked away first. She had to. There were counters to wipe and feelings were not on the closing checklist. Matteo stayed for the injunction call. He stayed while Nora prepped onions for the dinner shift. He stayed while his counsel confirmed the demolition would be halted by morning. He stayed while the procurement woman accepted copies of Nora's documents, and while Silas learned to stack booster seats correctly. He stayed when his cousin Enrico called and shouted loud enough for Nora to hear the shape of the words without catching them. Matteo listened. Then he said, You used my name to take food from children. Whatever Enrico said after that did not improve his future. By late afternoon, council had filed emergency papers. Wexler's meeting was postponed, and Aunt Dottie had called from Queens to ask whether Nora had insulted the man who owned the building. A child did most of it, Nora said. Matteo, standing beside the counter with the repaired lunchbox between them, said, I deserved it. Aunt Dottie was silent for one approving second. Then she asked whether he had fixed what he broke and said sorry. Yes, Matteo said. Good, Aunt Dottie replied. Then tell him owning a building means carrying the hard things too. Matteo removed his overcoat and carried the spare freezer fan from the basement without calling Silas. He was not graceful. He over-tightened one screw, dropped another, and listened when Nora corrected his pressure. By the time the freezer stopped rattling, his shirt cuffs were damp, his signet ring was scratched, and he had learned that some repairs required participation, not signatures. When he asked why the diner mattered so much, Nora showed him the basement shelves, donated cereal, milk crates, winter coats, and a bin of forgotten lunchboxes. People still need somewhere to sit, she said. Matteo looked at the shelves for a long time. I had a brother, he said. He said sorry once before anyone asked. My father used it as proof he could be punished. Nora did not move closer. That is a hard thing to unlearn over a lunchbox. It was not the lunchbox, Matteo said. It was the way Lily expected the world to make sense. Nora believed the beginning of him then. Not all of him. Just the beginning. 1 month later, the yellow lunchbox sat on the counter at Marigold Diner every Tuesday at 12:07. Not Lily's real lunchbox. She still used that one, repaired crack and crooked star sticker and all, for noodles on rainy days. This was a new one Matteo had bought and not given until Nora approved the method. It was the same shade of yellow, plain except for a small label inside the lid. Sorry means fix. The label was Lily's idea. The lunchbox held spare hair ties, allergy-safe stickers, emergency crackers, a tiny screwdriver, and $3 in quarters for children whose bus cards failed. It belonged to the diner now. Not as decoration. As policy. The redevelopment corridor died quietly after 3 audits, 2 resignations, and one cousin of Matteo's leaving Brooklyn with remarkable speed. City Plate lost the school contract. Marigold Diner received a proper one, drafted by actual lawyers and reviewed by Aunt Dottie with a red pen and deep suspicion. Matteo did not donate the diner into silence. Nora refused that. Instead, the Salvi Foundation, which had apparently existed mostly for tax reasons before Nora got her hands on its draft documents, funded a school lunch repair grant administered by 3 women who cared more about receipts than ribbon cuttings: Nora, Mrs. Pruitt, and Aunt Dottie. Matteo attended the first meeting. He was late by 3 minutes. Lily pointed at the clock. He looked at the clock, then at her. "I am sorry I am late," he said. The room stopped. Nora, carrying a tray of muffins from the kitchen, nearly walked into the counter. Lily considered him. "Why?" Matteo blinked. "Why am I sorry? No. Why late? A man attempted to lie to me. Did you fix him?" Nora choked. Matteo's mouth curved. "I corrected the schedule." "Okay," Lily said. "You can have a muffin." He accepted the muffin like a court order. At lunch, he took off his overcoat, rolled back his cuffs, and stood behind the yellow line until Nora handed him a hairnet. Silas made a sound. Matteo put it on. The first graders applauded. Nora laughed so hard she had to lean against the milk cooler. "Careful," Matteo said quietly when she came close enough to hand him a stack of trays. That sounded almost affectionate. "I apologize." His eyes warmed. "Does that one count?" "No. But it shows promise." She looked at him over the trays. Dangerous man. Black suit. Hairnet. Hands that had learned the pressure of a lunchbox hinge and a freezer screw. A mouth that still made apologies like each one crossed old ground, but made them anyway. "It shows practice," she said. He accepted that. Near the window, Lily opened her repaired yellow lunchbox. The latch stuck, as always, on the left side. Matteo noticed from across the room. He started forward. Nora caught his sleeve. He looked down at her hand. She let go, but did not step back. "Ask," she said. He looked at Lily. "Do you want help with the latch?" Lily shook her head, adjusted her thumb, and opened it herself. "No, thank you." Matteo stopped. For a man who had once treated the world like a door he could open with force, stopping was still the hardest repair. He did it. Lily pulled out her noodles. Nora set the trays down. "Nice lunchbox," Matteo said. Lily grinned. "You broke it." "I did. And fixed it. Under supervision. And said sorry." He looked at Nora. Then back at Lily. "Yes," he said. "And said sorry." Outside, rain slid down the diner windows. Inside, the lunch line moved forward. Children carried trays. Volunteers checked stickers. Silas held the kitchen door with one foot. Aunt Dottie argued with a lawyer over speakerphone. Mrs. Pruitt labeled muffins by allergen with the gravity of treaty work. Matteo Salvi, the most feared mafia boss in South Brooklyn, stood behind a yellow tape line with a tray in his hands, waiting for a 6-year-old to finish choosing grapes. He did not rush her. He did not buy the line. He did not order the room to bend around him. When the little girl looked up, he gave her the small nod of a man who had learned that power meant less than repair if you used it too late. Lily nodded back. Nora watched from the counter, one hand resting near the cracked yellow lunchbox that now held the diner's emergency tools. It was not perfect. The crack still showed. That was why it worked. Some things did not become beautiful because they had never broken. They became trustworthy because someone had finally stopped, gotten low enough to see the damage, and said sorry before trying to fix it. At Marigold Diner, that was the rule. And Matteo Salvi followed it.